For some reason, King's Isle just cannot leave shadow magic alone. I don't know why they decided to change this every chance that they get. Every major test run now, there's always changes with our existing spells. I felt like we finally got everything to a nice place. You know, Darkmoor spells have been nerfed many times over the years from what they originally were. And now I feel like a lot of players were comfortable with our shadow spells. They made sense. Players understood what they can do. And now King's Isle is deciding to change all that. So they had this stream. It was an hour long. I watched all of it and tried to understand what this new mechanic, what this new system that they are implementing in the new test run that's coming up with Darkmoor. They decided to change shadow spells with Darkmoor, so that's kind of also sad. That to me is like, okay, everyone's excited for Darkmoor because we liked what Darkmoor was in the past. We liked the dungeons, we liked the spells that we got. And they decided to use Darkmoor in the test realm for Darkmoor to change existing shadow spells, to rework them. So here is the new system. I will put on the screen two of the new spells that are coming with this. They are changing up the existing Shadow Seraph, Dark Nova, these transformation spells, and they're changing some of them into transformations that are a little bit different than what we had in the past with the backlash and all that. And then they're creating these other new ones that are basically, I'm going to call these shadow enchants. They are adding shadow enchants into this game. What that means is you can't just cast a glow bug with a shadow pip like we have in the past, or Sound of Musicology. These spells, if you want them to be similar power to what they are now in the game, you need to enchant them with a shadow enchant. And then on top of that, if you want it to be as powerful as it currently is in the game before all this updating takes place, then you have to put Epic on top of that. So in order to get this bugs with Epic, you have to enchant it with Shadow Enchant and then Epic. And you also have to have 5 pips and a Shadow Pip. So it's a big process just to get to the same, result that we have now without all this extra cost. On top of that, there's these needs that the shadow creatures have. So every shadow enchanted spell has a creature now that will be behind the wizard in combat for 3 turns. And it has this need that you have to give it. And if you don't give it its need, it will do 15% damage to your character. Just at the end of combat, if you defeat the enemies with your shadow spell, it'll just take 15% off of you, or after 3 turns. If you fulfill the needs, then it goes down by 5% until you get to 0. But to get to 0, you would have to have it fulfill that every single turn after. So any shadow spell that you use will have this shadow creature, because I guess they decided in the lore that all shadow spells involve these shadow creatures. Even just using 1 pip, now has a shadow creature. It used to be only these ones had the only these had the shadow creature. Dark Nova, the double shadow pips were the creature behind you. These ones didn't get used as much, and I mean they had specific scenarios where they were used. But then we had Shadow Strike, which was the transformation. Your wizard becomes a shadow creature. And there were downsides to this. I don't know why they're acting like we didn't have downsides to shadow spells in the past, because Strike has a downside. Strike is you transform for 0 pips and 1 shadow pip, and you get 50% pierce, 10% damage, minus 25% healing. So there was a downside. Same with Trickster. There's a downside of the block. And then with these ones, there was also the backlash. So you could take damage depending on what you cast while in this form. So I feel like for these ones to me were already like very established. I think these are great spells. I think they have utility. The backlash, exists. Players take damage if they don't fulfill those things, and that's the risk. So these ones I feel like had the risk. What they decided to do was all shadow spells need to have some type of risk, which includes all of these shadow pip spells. To me, I was okay with these not having any risk, and it makes sense because we're just, infusing shadow into these spells to make them more powerful. Shadow spells are more powerful in this game. That's kind of just the lore behind them. And I was okay with these ones not having like any type of risk associated, because we're not becoming a shadow creature like these. these have risk because we are literally becoming a shadow creature. This one, we're summoning a shadow creature behind us to help us in combat. Okay, so on the screen, I'm going to put the 2 new shadow spells that they are implementing, and I'll explain them. So Dark Nova is a fusion, and it costs 1 shadow pip. You can fuse this with an existing shadow spell, and well, what was previously a shadow spell. So you can use this on glow bugs. It will do 75 damage, and then it will give you 20% times 3 blades. So it'll put 3 of those 20% blades on you, and it will do like a wand hit. I know that doesn't seem that good in PvE for, you know, hitting with, I mean, it could be in certain situations, but I feel like there's going to be other enchants that don't do like a wand hit before and they do some other buff. So this is what enhanced glow bugs would look like if you enchanted it with this. You would be at 1145 storm damage, same cost as regular glow bugs, but you have to do this extra enchant once you get your shadow pip. And then you can enchant epic on top of that. So then you can go ahead and use plus 300 epic, which is going to be a lot of damage, but it takes extra steps. It takes an extra card in your deck. I would have to put in to my deck the new Dark Nova. So then when I go into battle, I would have to, I probably wouldn't even, I don't even know what my deck setup would look like at this point. Maybe I would take out Musicology. So I would have to run a deck like this, wait until I get a shadow, enchant Dark Nova onto glow bugs to become shadow enhanced glow bugs, and then epic on top of that. So it kind of is starting to ruin like the 7 card decks, and I don't feel like this is going to be as efficient as it once was with using shadow spells. And then the other card is Shadow Seraph. This is a transformation. There's going to be a transformation for every school, a shadow transformation for every school, and there's going to be a shadow enchant for every school. So I think there's 14 new shadow spells that they're adding. And this one, Shadow Seraph, would transform you, and then you would do 25% outgoing damage, 35% outgoing healing for 3 turns. It gives you a life pip. So you would get a life power pip. And then the shadow creature tax is going to be blades on yourself. So it will take the blades on yourself. If you have a tri-blade on you, that will fulfill the entire needs of the shadow creature, and then it'll just remove 1 blade per turn. And then after you do that, you'll take 0% damage because you fulfilled all 3 of the turns what the creature needs, which is just a blade. In this stream, the devs made it seem like this system was simpler than before, but that's because they were comparing it to the backlash system that existed with Shadow Strike and Trickster and these type of spells. But how is it any simpler to apply this system that currently exists in the game with Shadow Strike onto these spells? That is not simpler at all. That is added complexity. They're adding complexity to all shadow spells by adding backlash to it, by adding an extra enchant on top of our normal enchant, and we have to take backlash from using a shadow spell. So if you were in a combat and you enchanted glow bugs with Nova, and then you enchanted it with epic and you hit with glow bugs and it killed everybody, you would then take 15% damage because you killed them on the same turn but you used a shadow spell. So you would be ending the combat with 15% damage taken. And that's just kind of annoying. I don't even know if that's something that people would be okay with, if it's even worth it at that point. I feel like these changes are more PvP focused and advanced combat focused, which I'm okay with them making changes and making new things to help, you know, make PvP more interesting or make advanced combat more interesting. But I hate when they take away things that have already existed in the game. I hate when they take away tools that we've had, spells that we've had for such a long time, and change it and make it more confusing and add unnecessary things onto it. Oh yeah, and by the way, they are changing the normal Shrike and Trickster and all these. All the shadow spells are getting changed. So Shrike will not be exactly this anymore. You will have the same type of mechanic with Shadow Shrike. It will still have the backlash up to 15%, and you'll have to fulfill different things for that. So this Shadow Shrike is going away, by the way. I know people use this a lot in PvP, and certain combats might require Shadow Strike because you need the Pierce. This is going away in this form. So that also is changing. I feel like this is the most used like Shadow transformation. I just wish they wouldn't change existing spells this hard. Like, I wish they would just leave it. I feel like we worked so hard just to get the Darkmoor spells back to what they used to be, or like close to that. And I don't know. I don't really like it. I wish they introduced this mechanic with new spells. I wish they just came up with a new system that had this type of enchanting, because this is basically just shadow enchanting. And I don't know why they have to mess with existing things. And I feel like it's because they cannot continue to power creep this game. I feel like they are out of room to power creep. To me, this proves that they still think that shadow spells are too powerful for us, and that they made a mistake making them this powerful, and they have to nerf it again. I know they don't think this is a nerf, but it is a nerf because we now have to use an extra card in order to get the same power of Glowbug that we did before. So for me as a player, this is a nerf, because I have to put in an extra card to get the same Glowbugs. Which, guess what? If I have to put an extra card in my deck, which is a big deal, I don't think I'm going to be using Glowbugs. I think I'm going to be putting in Stormlord, just because I would rather have a one card, solution to hitting all the enemies. I kind of wish they would have just made this system into a new enchant. Like, imagine they gave us a shadow enchant instead that has this backlash system, and it has like a need for whatever we put it on or whatever. I mean, I still feel like that's a little too complicated, but they could have just added a shadow enchant that has a downside, but gives us like a plus like 400 damage or something, or like plus 350. I feel like that would have been a little bit better than this. Then they wouldn't have had to mess with existing spells. Then they could have just added a better enchant, which everyone wants, and then have a downside to that. But instead, we're going back to changing up the Darkmoor spells, because apparently they're the most powerful thing in the entire game, the most OP thing ever, and they have to continuously get nerfed. But that is it, guys. I have been yapping for way too long on this, because, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here, and there's a lot of opinions that I know are going to be thrown around from this. So that's just my initial opinion. I watched the stream this morning, and these are my thoughts on it. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of this system. I'm a PvE player, so I'm coming from a PvE perspective here. I can see the benefits of this to PvP and to advanced combat, but I still don't like when PvE has to suffer for changes made elsewhere in the game. That is one thing I don't like. So let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this video, definitely leave a like on it. I'll be continuously covering new updates as they come out until we get to Darkmoor. So I didn't expect this level of update, but yeah, these are the changes that they've proposed so far. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoy this today. I'll see you all next time.